if your time was almost up, if today was your final day. What's the one thing you'd hope to hear from God? Not a lecture, not a list of your wrongs, just one clear, simple truth: that you're not alone, that you're still loved, that you're going somewhere safe. One man, a criminal nailed to a cross next to Jesus, was in that very moment. No time to fix his life, no chance to make things right. And yet, Jesus looked at him and said, "Today, you'll be with me in paradise." One sentence, and that's all. But somehow it holds the whole gospel inside it. One sentence, the whole gospel. It was one of the darkest moments in history. The Son of God was hanging on a cross. There was pain, blood, mockery, and silence. Jesus could have stayed quiet, or he could have preached a long sermon. But instead, he spoke a single sentence to a dying man who didn't deserve it. "Today you'll be with me in paradise." No conditions, no rules, just grace, just presence, just a promise. And that one sentence, it says everything we need to know about who Jesus is and what the gospel really means. He didn't say it to a priest, not to a saint. He said it to someone who had nothing left to offer. And that's why it matters, because if it was true for him, it can be true for you too. 1. Today. Salvation is now. The first word Jesus said to that dying man wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even long. It was just one simple word: today. And that might be the most powerful word in the whole sentence. Because when Jesus said today, he wasn't just talking about the time of day. He was speaking to the heart of the gospel. That salvation is not something you work toward. It's not something you climb your way into. It's not about one day, if you're good enough. It's not about someday, if you fix yourself. It's not about later, when you feel more ready. Number. It's about now, right here, right in this moment, with all your flaws, with all your pain, with all your regrets still unresolved. Jesus didn't say tomorrow, because tomorrow isn't promised. He said today because grace is present tense, and the thief on the cross is proof. He had no time left. He couldn't walk into a church. He couldn't start over. He couldn't make amends or undo the damage. All he could do was believe, and that was enough. That's the gospel, not a ladder to climb, but a hand reaching down when you've fallen as far as you can fall. Not a system of rules, but a relationship that begins when you say yes to Jesus in this moment. Scripture says it over and over again. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your heart. Hebrews 3:15. Now is the time of God's favor. Now is the day of salvation. 2 Corinthians 6:2. And still, we wait. We wait until life feels less messy. We wait until we're stronger. We wait until the shame fades. But God doesn't wait. Jesus didn't wait on the cross. He didn't say, "Let me think about it." He didn't say, "We'll see how things go." He said, "Today, right now, in your weakness, in your pain, in your fear, even in your failure." He's not asking you to bring him your best. He's inviting you to bring him your now, because he already knows who you are. And still, he chooses you. So what's stopping you from saying yes? If today was enough for a man with a criminal past and no future, then maybe, just maybe, it's enough for you too. Because grace doesn't wait, and neither should you. 2. You'll be a personal promise of grace. When Jesus spoke to the thief on the cross, he didn't say, "Someone will be with me." He didn't say, "If the numbers work out, maybe you'll get in." He looked at him and said clearly, "You'll be with me." That word, "you," is not small. It's deeply personal, and that makes all the difference, because this wasn't just anyone. This was a man the world saw as worthless, a criminal, a failure, a man whose story was supposed to end in shame. But Jesus didn't see a label. He saw a soul, he saw a person worth saving, and he made it personal. That's how grace works. It's not cold. It's not distant. It doesn't speak to the crowd. It calls you by name. That man didn't pray a perfect prayer. He didn't do any good deeds. He simply asked Jesus to remember him. And that one act of faith opened the door to eternity. Jesus didn't ask questions. He didn't set conditions. He just gave a promise. You will be, as in, I'm taking you with me. This wasn't general grace. This was specific. This was directed. This was chosen grace. And that's what Jesus offers you too. Because maybe you felt overlooked. Maybe you've believed the gospel is for better people. People who don't mess up. People who have their life together. People who grew up with the right faith. But Jesus didn't say this to a priest. He said it to a dying thief. Which means you don't have to be perfect. You just have to believe. Isaiah 43:1 says, I have called you by name. You are mine. He knows you. He sees you. And still, he chooses you. That's the heart of the gospel. It's not about religion. It's about relationship. It's not about earning his presence. It's about receiving his promise. So when Jesus says, you'll be with me, don't think he's talking to someone else. He's talking to you. You with the questions. You with the broken past. You with the doubt, the fear, the failure. Grace has a name on it, and that name is yours. 3. With me. The gift is his presence. When Jesus looked at the dying thief, he didn't say, you'll be in paradise. He said, you'll be with me. It may sound like a small difference, but it holds a life-changing truth. Because paradise isn't just a reward. It's not just a beautiful place. It's not just peace or comfort or freedom from pain. Paradise is being with Jesus. He is the gift. He is the peace. He is the joy. And his presence is what makes heaven. Heaven. The thief wasn't promised a better place. He was promised a person. He was promised Jesus himself. And that's what your soul truly longs for. So many people spend their lives searching for something. Healing, clarity, love, success. But even when they find it, they still feel empty. Because deep down, we're not just looking for answers. We're longing for presence. The kind that sees us, stays with us, and never leaves. That's exactly what Jesus offered when he said, with me. Not after you clean up your life. Not if you're good enough. Just with me. Psalm 16:11 says, in your presence there is fullness of joy. Not in perfection, not in paradise, but in your presence. And here's the beautiful truth. That presence is available right now. You don't have to wait until heaven to be with Jesus. He wants to be with you today, in your pain, your questions, your failures. Because the gospel isn't about getting to a better place. It's about coming back to the one who made you and who still wants you, no matter where you are, no matter what you've done. So when Jesus says, you'll be with me, he's not giving you directions. He's giving you his heart. And when you're with him, that's when eternity truly begins. 4. In paradise. Hope in the darkest moment. Jesus said to a dying man, today you'll be with me in paradise. It's a stunning promise. Not because of where it leads, but because of when and where it was spoken. Think about it. This wasn't said in a church, not in a moment of peace, not after a life of obedience. Jesus spoke those words from a cross to a man who was dying beside him, a man who had lost everything, a man who was moments away from death, surrounded by shame, suffering, and silence. Yet in that place of deepest darkness, Jesus speaks of paradise. That's the power of hope in the gospel. It doesn't wait for circumstances to improve. It enters into the pain, the mess, the chaos, and still shines. Because paradise isn't a distant dream. It's a promise that reaches into the worst moment of your life and whispers, "This isn't the end." The thief had no reason to expect mercy, but Jesus gave him more than mercy. He gave him eternity. And that's what grace looks like. It doesn't show up when things are already beautiful. It shows up when there's nothing left but need. Revelation 21:4 says, "He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain." Jesus offered that promise, not just for a future place, but in the middle of present pain, because in God's kingdom, the lowest point can become the beginning of eternal hope. So maybe you feel like that thief right now, wounded, ashamed, running out of time. If so, listen closely. Paradise is still being offered, not because you've earned it, but because Jesus already paid for it. He's not asking for perfection. He's offering presence and a promise of paradise right in the middle of your darkest hour. 5. Faith, not works. The core of the gospel. The man hanging beside Jesus didn't have time to fix his life. He couldn't go back and undo his wrongs. He didn't get baptized. He didn't join a church. He didn't do any good works. All he did was believe, and that was enough. This is the radical heart of the gospel. It's not about what you've done. It's about who you trust. The thief simply turned to Jesus and said, "Remember me." That wasn't a perfect prayer. It wasn't polished. It was honest. It was real. And it was filled with faith. He believed that Jesus was more than just another man on a cross. He believed Jesus had a kingdom. He believed Jesus had mercy. And that belief, not behavior, opened the door to paradise. That's the kind of faith God honors. Not the kind that tries to prove itself, but the kind that surrenders. Ephesians 2:8-9 says, "It is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast." If the thief had tried to earn his salvation, he would have run out of time. But grace isn't about performance. It's about a person, and your faith in Him. That's why the gospel is good news, because even when you feel unworthy, even when you have nothing to give, Jesus still says, "Come to me." The thief didn't clean up. He didn't climb his way to heaven. He simply looked to Jesus and believed. And Jesus said, "That's enough." So if you've ever felt like you've missed your chance, like you've made too many mistakes, like you'll never be good enough for God, remember the man on the cross. He had nothing but faith, and heaven opened for him. Because in the end, it's not about what you've done. It's about who you trust. The promise is still for you. On the cross, Jesus spoke one sentence to a dying man. "Today, you'll be with me in paradise." And in that one line, the entire gospel was spoken. Let's remember what it means. Today, salvation is not for later. It's for now. You don't have to wait until you're ready. Jesus is ready now. It's personal. Not a general offer to the crowd, but a promise made to a specific broken soul. Just like you, just like me. With me. Heaven is not just a place. It's about being with Him. His presence is the greatest reward of all. In paradise, even in the darkest place, there's a future full of light, a promise that this pain won't last forever. Because you believe. Not because you earned it. Not because you were perfect, but because you trusted in the one who is. That thief had nothing to give, but he gave Jesus his heart, and that was enough. And here's the truth. Jesus hasn't stopped saying those words. That same promise is still echoing today. He's still looking at broken people, hurting people, doubting people, people who feel like they've missed their chance. And He's saying, "You'll be with me." So the question is simple. Do you believe it? Do you trust Him? Will you say yes to that invitation? Not someday, but today? Because grace is reaching for you now, and heaven begins where Jesus is. If this message touched your heart, watch the next video to learn how to walk with Jesus daily and live each moment in His presence. You were never meant to walk alone, and now you don't have to.